day-to-day government spending, the government's operating budget, has been growing by 9% every year. The government will introduce measures to bring it below 2%. Transfers to provinces, territories, or individuals will be maintained. The government will balance its operating budget over the next 3 years by cutting waste, capping the public service, ending duplication, and deploying technology to improve public sector productivity. In parallel,
good evening, everyone. Hopefully you're having a wonderful day so far. I got a good one for you today. So, King Charles III was in Canada the other day, and right here we finally got Scarlett up and running to tell you all about it. Take it away, Scarlett.
Finally, he lets me go. Now, apparently, the Canadian flesh-bakes king, King Charles III, came to Canada yesterday to do what you weak beings call the throne speech to bring back your primitive parliament.
Whoa. Okay, let's put a halt on there. Apparently she's not doing the best now. We'll keep her away from politics for the second. Anyways, so yeah, as Scarlett said, King Charles was in Ottawa the other day doing this throne speech instead of the Governor General, and we have it here on video by CBC News. So, with no further ado, let's get into this.
Of shared history as a nation, while continuing to deepen my own understanding, it is my great hope that in each of your communities and collectively as a country, a path is found toward truth and reconciliation in both word and deed. This is my 20th visit to Canada, spread over the course of more than half a century, and my first as sovereign. As I've said before, every time I come to Canada, a little more of Canada seeps into my bloodstream, and from there straight to my heart. I've always had the greatest admiration for Canada's unique identity, which is recognized across the world for bravery and sacrifice in defense of national values and for the diversity and kindness of Canadians. To the First Nations, Inuit and Métis peoples, you have welcomed my family and myself to your traditional lands with great warmth and hospitality, for which I am humbly grateful. This year, we mark the 80th anniversary of VE Day and VJ Day. On Juno Beach, at Dieppe, on the Somme, at Beaumont-Hamel, at Ypres, and on Vimy Ridge. At those places and many others, forever etched into our memories, Canadians fought and died alongside our closest allies. Aujourd'hui, je vois des élus venant
Today,
d'un bout à l'autre
I
du
see
Canada.
elected members of parliament from all across this country, from St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador, Victoria in British Columbia,
et d'Arviat
and
au
Arviat
Nunavut.
in Nunavut.
Je vois des gardiens
I
des
see
droits
the
et libertés
custodians
garantis
of the rights and
par la
freedoms
Charte canadienne.
guaranteed by the Canadian Charter.
En tant que roi, je
As
tiens
king,
à vous remercier
I wish to
de
thank
vous
you
mettre au service
for
de vos
serving your
compatriotes
fellow
d'un
Canadians
bout ou l'autre
from
de ce
all
grand et
across
beau
this
pays.
vast and beautiful country.
You speak for your communities, representing an incredible.
So I'm extremely glad that he addressed the vets and then addressed the military and all that, because we don't do that enough in Canada, and that's extremely important, and they definitely need more people honoring them, let's just say, and recognizing them. And so that's good, that's coming from our sovereign. But I'm still sort of waiting for that emotion of, I'm the sovereign here in Canada, I'm here for you, right? Like really bringing this moment together. And I know it's kind of, in Parliament, you're supposed to be more formal and all that, but come on, Mark Carney brought you here to bring Canada together and show that we're united. Give it a little bit of emotion, man. Give it something.
Incredible richness of cultures, languages, and perspectives. We owe it to this generation and those who succeed us to think and act for the greater good of all. While the world faces unprecedented challenges, generating uncertainties across the continents with regards to peace and stability, economics and climate change, your communities have the skills and determination to bring a wealth of solutions. En encourageant la collaboration,
by encouraging collaboration and holding respectful and constructive debates, you will enable this government to take bold and fair-minded actions for the well-being of all Canadians.
It has been nearly 70 years since the Sovereign first opened Parliament. In the time since, Canada has dramatically changed, repatriating its constitution, achieving full independence.
Well, let's just say the freedom of speech thing is kind of going away a little bit here in Canada, especially with Bill C-11, which is known as the Internet Censorship Bill. And now Quebec is passing this thing where all the French language, media or videos and stuff like that on Netflix and other platforms, they have to come in French first, and then English comes later, and they have to have a certain amount of French language stuff going on there to even run in Quebec. So it's starting to waver a little bit. Not bad, but we gotta watch it.
And witnessing immense growth. Canada has embraced its British, French, and Indigenous roots and become a bold, ambitious, innovative country that is bilingual, truly multicultural, and committed to reconciliation. The Crown has for so long been a symbol of unity for Canada. It also represents stability and continuity from the past to the present. As it should, it stands proudly as a symbol of Canada today in all her richness and dynamism. When my dear late mother, Queen Elizabeth II, opened a new Canadian Parliament in 1957, the Second World War remained a fresh, painful memory. The Cold War was intensifying. Freedom and democracy were under threat. Canada was emerging as a growing economic power and a force for peace in the world. In the decades since, history has been punctuated by epoch-making events: the Vietnam War, the fall of the Berlin Wall, and the start of the War on Terror. Today, Canada faces another critical moment. Democracy, pluralism, the rule of law, self-determination, and freedom are values which Canadians hold dear, and ones which the government is determined to protect. The system of open global trade that, while not perfect, has helped to deliver prosperity for Canadians for decades is changing. Canada's relationships with partners are also changing. Il nous faut confronter la réalité.
We must confront the reality that since the Second World War, our world has never been as dangerous and unstable. Canada is now facing challenges which are unprecedented in our lifetimes.
Many Canadians are feeling anxious and worried about the drastically changing world around them. Fundamental change is always unsettling. Yet this moment is also an incredible opportunity for renewal, an opportunity to think big and to act bigger, an opportunity for Canada to embark on the largest transformation of its economy since the Second World War. A confident Canada, which has welcomed new Canadians, including from some of the most tragic global conflict zones, can seize this opportunity by recognizing that all Canadians can give themselves far more than any foreign power on any continent can ever take away. And that by staying true to Canadian values, Canada can build new alliances and a new economy that serves all Canadians.
Yeah, well, that just depends on how much the government's willing to take away from their citizens and their citizens' prosperity. Just ask Albertans themselves when Pierre Trudeau brought in the Equalization Act and the National Energy Program, pretty much stealing a ton of wealth away from Alberta. Though what he didn't do was he didn't stifle their ability to do work, from what I know. So if the government gets out of our way and they cut red tape and they allow us to do what Canadians do best with low amount of bureaucracy, I think we might just have a shot at actually doing well here. Now, am I optimistic that they're going to actually do that? No. But a man can dream.
The Prime Minister and the President of the United States, for example, have begun defining a new economic and security relationship between Canada and the United States, rooted in mutual respect and founded on common interests, to deliver transformational benefits for both sovereign nations. Simultanément, le gouvernement œuvre à
At the same time, the government is working to strengthen its relations with reliable trading partners and allies, knowing that Canada has what the world needs and defends the values that the world respects. Canada is ready to build a coalition of nations that share these values, nations that believe in international cooperation and the free exchange of goods, services, and ideas. In this new world, which is evolving at a frantic pace, Canada will chart the path forward. That will be demonstrated as early as June, when Canada chairs the G7 summit.
Well, that kind of depends, because if Canada doesn't really get, well, not Canada, but if the government doesn't really get its act together with its trading partners and takes the tariffs off of milk, cheese, and, well, pretty much what the dairy cartel is, then we're going to have a hard time trading with anybody other than the United States. Just look at how our trade deal with the UK went. It was stalled, and I don't even think it's happening right now because they wanted to export their dairy into Canada, and we said no, it's not allowed here. It was either not allowed or it was going to be highly tariffed, so I'm not quite sure. And yeah, they were just like, well, if you're going to not allow it, then we're just going to cancel the agreement. So that'll be a big, big thing when trying to negotiate with the European Union and Britain. And let's see if Mark Carney actually does this. If Mark Carney actually takes away this dairy law that we have here, the price control on it, then honestly, I will then praise him for that, because a ton of Canadians have been asking for this thing to go away, because it raises our prices of milk so high. It's ridiculous.
The government is guided by its conviction that the economy is only truly strong when it serves everyone. Many Canadians are struggling to get ahead. The government is responding, reducing middle-class taxes and saving two-income families up to $840 a year. It will cut the GST on homes at or under $1 million for first-time homebuyers, delivering savings of up to $50,000. And it will lower the GST on homes between $1 million and $1.5 million.
Woo. But you can buy I guess $800 a year is still good. It's still something, but it really, what is that going to buy you? That's what? 3 steaks a month. That's awesome. I love the no GST for first-time home buyers under $1 million. And that's a Pierre Poilievre talking point, so just want to put that out there. But the scary thing is the half GST on first-time home buyers for $1 million to $1.5 million houses. What first-time home buyers are going to be buying $1.5 million houses? Are we going to have another the great cold of 2020 happen, where interest rates go so low that housing costs skyrocket to millions of dollars? Are they anticipating something like that's going to happen again? Or are they anticipating that housing prices from coast to coast to coast are going to go up over $1 million? Now, this is just all speculation, but something to think about.
Le gouvernement assurera la pérennité de programmes.
The government will
qui
ensure
permettent déjà aux
the
familles
sustainability of
d'économiser
programs
des
that allow
milliers de
families
dollars
to
par
save
année.
thousands of dollars each
Notamment,
year.
ceux pour les garderies
In
et
particular,
l'assurance médicaments.
the child care and pharmacare
À ces
programs.
progrès s'ajoute l'élargissement du
Additional
régime
progress
canadien
will
de
include the
soins
expansion
dentaires,
of the Canadian dental
qui
care
sera
program,
bientôt accessible
which will
à
soon be
environ
available
8 millions
to
de
approximately
Canadiens
8
et de
million
Canadiennes,
Canadians,
leur permettant d'économiser
thus
plus de
allowing them
$800
to save
par
an
année
average of more than
en moyenne.
$800 a year.
The government's overarching goal, its core mission, is to build the strongest economy in the G7. That starts with creating one Canadian economy out of 13. Internal barriers to trade and labour mobility cost Canada as much as $200 billion each year. The government will introduce legislation to remove all remaining federal barriers to internal trade and labour mobility by Canada Day. Les premiers ministres de plusieurs provinces et
The
territoires
premiers of several
ont déjà
provinces
Well, that's nice, but that doesn't really matter. Because what matters is Quebec going to keep on halting interprovincial trade? Is the Maritimes gonna do the same thing? Prevent pipelines or prevent mines going interprovincially? Well, I don't think mines really go interprovincially, but stuff like that. I'm from the West, pipelines. So, yeah. Are they going to prevent pipelines going from east to west, west to east? Most likely, the bloc said that there will be no pipelines put in Quebec. So, I'm anticipating the federal government's not going to be able to do anything on this one, because in our constitution it says that the provinces have their right to these things.
And territories have already taken steps to eliminate barriers to internal trade. The government will support that progress by establishing true free trade across Canada by Canada Day. These are critical actions that will enable Canada to realize its full economic potential. But it is not enough.
To build Canada strong, the government is working closely with provinces, territories, and Indigenous peoples to identify and catalyse projects of national significance. Projects that will connect Canada, that will deepen Canada's ties with the world, and that will create high-paying jobs for generations. Given the pace of change and the scale of opportunities, speed is of the essence. Through the creation of a new major federal project office, the time needed to approve a project will be reduced from 5 years to 2, all while upholding Canada's world-leading environmental standards and its constitutional obligations to Indigenous peoples. The government will also strike cooperation agreements with every interested province and territory within 6 months to realize its goal of one project, one review. When Canadians come together, Canada builds things that last.
Eliminating barriers that hold back the Canadian economy will make it possible to usher in a new era of growth, thanks to which Canada will not only overcome the challenge of trade wars, but emerge stronger than ever. That will allow it to become a superpower when it comes to green and conventional energy. To build an industrial strategy that will make Canada more competitive on the international stage, while at the same time fighting climate change.
Now, I think Pierre Poilievre's way of doing and planning out big, major interprovincial projects is better. The pre-approved sort of way that he was saying. But I gotta say, if Mark Carney actually halves the amount of approval time, well, more than halves, I'd be happy with that. I'd be like, okay, this is a happy medium, things are going in faster, and they're at the same safety level. Now, the no pipeline and no tanker bill, I'd still like to see that get demolished, but I don't think that's going to happen.
To build hundreds of thousands of good careers in the trades, and thus make Canada a science and innovation hub.
Critically, the government will undertake a series of measures to help double the rate of home building while creating an entirely new housing industry, using Canadian technology, Canadian skilled workers, and Canadian lumber. The government will introduce measures to deliver affordable homes by creating Build Canada Homes. This mission-driven organization will act to accelerate the development of new affordable housing. It will invest in the growth of the prefabricated and modular housing industry, and it will provide significant financing to affordable home builders. The government will make the housing market work better, including by cutting municipal development charges in half for all multi-unit housing. The government will drive supply up to bring housing costs down. To be truly strong, Canada must be secure. To that end, the government will introduce legislation to enhance security at Canada's borders. Law enforcement and intelligence agencies will have new tools to stop the flow of fentanyl and its precursors. The Canada Border Services Agency will be given new powers to examine goods destined for export to prevent the transport of illegal and stolen products, including cars. Le gouvernement protégera la souveraineté du Canada.
The government will protect the sovereignty of Canada by rebuilding, rearming, and reinvesting in the Canadian Armed Forces. It will spur the expansion of the Canadian defense industry by taking part in the Rearm Europe plan, and will thus contribute, alongside European partners, to transatlantic security. And it will invest to strengthen and boost Canada's presence in the North, because this region, which is an integral part of the Canadian nation, is now facing new threats.
So I just have some criticisms there. Good thing on the prefab homes. I mean, we really need that in Canada. For example, the United States has prefab homes made by Home Depot that are just like the outside shell of a house, and then the inside you can insulate yourself and do all that. Canada doesn't have that. For some weird reason, we don't have prefab homes like that. So if we can get kind of something that's just bare bones shell of a house, and then you can plop it on to make it cheaper for people to build houses and to make it faster, as long as it's sturdy and it won't fall down in 3 years or won't break down with the first nasty thunderstorm, I'm good. And just the one criticism I had is I wish that King Charles would have said all this military stuff in English, not French, because it is extremely important that Canadians know this, and a lot of the mainstream media companies don't have French to English translation on it. CBC's kind of a little bit more special in that view, but CPAC doesn't have that for a lot of things. So for those English listeners, they're not going to know what's going on with the military. So just something to think about when they're planning out their next speech.
The government will discharge its duty to protect Canadians and their sovereign rights from wherever challenges may come at home or abroad. To keep communities safe, the government will hire 1,000 more RCMP personnel. It will change firearms licensing and strengthen enforcement of yellow and red flag laws. Weapons licenses for those convicted of intimate partner violence and those subject to protection orders will be revoked. Through the deployment of scanners, drones, and helicopters, additional personnel, and K9 teams, the government will stem the tide of illegal guns and drugs across the border. It will take these steps while protecting the rights of law-abiding gun owners and Indigenous peoples' long-standing hunting traditions. The government will bring a renewed focus on car theft and home invasions by toughening the criminal code to make bail harder to get for repeat offenders charged with committing these crimes, along with human trafficking and drug smuggling. During this time of great change, Canadians are uniting behind what makes Canada unique.
Okay, I'm really glad that they're making it harder for people to get bail on serious crimes, because, man, look at Toronto and see how bad that stuff is there. They really, really need that. So.
Langue française et la culture québécoise.
The French language and Quebec culture are at the very center of Canadian identity. They define the country that all Canadians and myself hold so dear. Canada is a country that respects and celebrates its official languages and indigenous languages.
Le gouvernement est déterminé à
The
protéger
government is resolute in its determination to protect those institutions that highlight and promote that identity around the world,
comme CBC,
such as
Radio-Canada.
CBC, Radio-Canada,
Protéger ceux qui
to
nous donnent
protect those
accès
who give
à
us
des aliments
access
frais,
to
sains
fresh,
et de qualité
healthy, and high-quality
des producteurs
food,
agricoles.
our farm
Et protéger
producers,
la gestion
and to
de
protect supply management.
Nature is core to Canada's identity. In 2022, Canada convened COP.
Oh, so they won't be getting rid of supply management. So that's going to make trade extremely hard, I assume, with Europe. Great. But we'll have to see. Maybe they'll make concessions where they're fine with not being able to export their dairy to Canada.
15 in Montreal, which concluded with 196 countries striking a historic agreement to protect 30% of their lands and 30% of waters by 2030. To this end, the government will protect more of Canada's nature than ever before through the creation of new national parks, national urban parks, marine protected areas, and other conservation initiatives. The government will always protect the rights and freedoms that the Charter guarantees for every Canadian. The government will be a reliable partner to Indigenous peoples, upholding its fundamental commitment to advancing reconciliation. Central to this commitment is the creation of long-term wealth and prosperity with Indigenous peoples. For that reason, the government will double the Indigenous Loan Guarantee Program from $5 billion to $10 billion, enabling more Indigenous communities to become owners of major projects. As Canada moves forward with nation-building projects, the government will always be firmly guided by the principle of free, prior, and informed consent.
Holy moly, man. That's nuts. $10 million. That's like making you a debt slave. There's no way you'll get out of that debt, because there's gotta be interest on that. There's no chance the government's gonna give you that money without interest. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it'll be an interest-free loan, and the Indigenous great-grandchildren can pay it off.
Canada's immigration system has long been a source of pride for Canadians and of dynamism for the economy. The government is dedicated to rebuilding the trust of Canadians in immigration by restoring balance to the system. Le gouvernement instaurera une limite sur le
The
nombre
government
de
will
travailleurs
set a
étrangers
limit
temporaires
on the
et
number of
d'étudiants
temporary foreign
internationaux,
workers and international
établissant
students,
un plafond qui,
establishing
à
a
partir
cap,
de 2027,
which, starting in
sera en
2027,
deçà de 5%
will be
de la
below
population
5%
canadienne.
of Canada's population.
Simultanément,
At the same time,
il attirera les
it
meilleurs
will
talents
attract the
dans le
best
monde
talent in the
pour bâtir
world
l'économie.
to build the economy.
Et il fera
And
savoir aux
it will
Canadiens
make it
et
known
aux
to
Canadiennes
Canadians working
qui
abroad
travaillent à l'étranger que s'ils
that
songent
if
à
they are
revenir
thinking
au pays,
of coming back
il
home,
n'y a pas de moment plus
there is
propice
no
pour le
better
faire.
time than now.
Dans toutes ses actions, le gouvernement
In all its
sera guidé
actions,
par une
the
nouvelle
government
discipline
will be
fiscale.
guided by a new fiscal
Dépenser
discipline,
moins pour que les
spending less
Canadiens puissent
so
investir
that
plus.
Canadians can invest more.
Day-to-day government spending, the government's operating budget, has been growing by 9% every year. The government will introduce measures to bring it below 2%. Transfers to provinces, territories, or individuals will be maintained.
So how is everything going to be maintained that they're already giving us? We're going to get tax deductions on apparently everything, and they're going to double loans that they're going to give out to people, well, Indigenous people, but also increase other loans. All the while increasing our population by 5% each year. Can anybody say moneymaker go burr? Because they're not going to get it through taxes, And I don't see how they're going to keep the inflation rate at 0 or 2% and the spending rate at 2%. And I have to reiterate this immigrant 5% thing, because what he said is 5% of the population. And if each year our population goes up 5%, that's going to be exponential growth, increasing every single year. Where under the conservatives, it wasn't a percentage, it was 150,000, at least I think it was 150,000 people, but it was a fixed rate. They're like, this is how many people we're letting in, not a percentage of population.
The government will balance its operating budget over the next 3 years by cutting waste, capping the public service, ending duplication, and deploying technology to improve public sector productivity. In parallel, the government will take a series of measures to catalyse new investment, to create better jobs and higher incomes for Canadians. The scale of the government's initiative will match the challenges of our times and the ambitions of Canadians. Honourable Senators, members of the House of Commons, when my dear late mother addressed your predecessors 7 decades ago, she said that in that age and against the backdrop of international affairs, no nation could live unto itself. It is a source of great pride that in the following decades, Canada has continued to set an example to the world in her conduct and values as a force for good. À vous et à l'ensemble du peuple
To
canadien.
you and to all the people of Canada, my wife and I wish to extend our sincere thanks. For this, the warmest of welcomes.
As the anthem reminds us, the true North is indeed strong and free.
And may it stay that way. But I do like how our monarch did reiterate that. So but I still say he's bland as heck.
Members of the House of Commons, you will be asked to appropriate the funds to carry out the services and expenditures authorised by Parliament. May you honour the profound trust bestowed upon you by Canadians. And may God bless and guide you in all your duties.
Well, that was pretty cool how the king did come down to Calgary, or Calgary. The king came to Canada to do the throne speech. Like he said, hasn't been done for 70 years, so it's pretty important. The unfortunate thing, I think, though, is he was invited down because Mark Carney wanted to bring Canada sort of together, show unity, show strength to the United States, right? Because, you know, of the trade disputes we've been having. And I don't particularly think the king did that. I don't think that he portrayed that Canada is really strong. I didn't feel anything really move inside of me when he spoke. Now, this could just be, it's because of a procedural thing, but the reason why he came down to Canada was to form, as I said, unity. And plus, let me also reiterate, we have an issue with Canada and the West. 30% of Albertans are considering separation. Above 30% in Saskatchewan are considering it as well. We really, really needed our sovereign to be like, no, this is Canada, we are awesome, yada, this is the best country that there'll ever be. There wasn't that. So, unfortunately, I don't think that this visit's really going to do much of anything or show much of anything. But I'm glad he came down during this more rough time in our lives, let's just say. So, anyways, after that rant, that's all I got for you today. Let me know what you think about the king, and let me know about what you think about him coming down for the throne speech. Do you think it was good to waste our money and our tax dollars bringing him to Canada? Or do you think it would have been just better to let the Governor General do it and just do it the normal way and get to business as usual? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe. And with that all through, have a great day.